into captivity to the law of sin. That's where I got the title of the message. Paul, imprisoned by indwelling sin. He says, I'm a captive to that law of sin that's in me, that old nature. O wretched man, verse 24, that I am, who shall deliver me from the body of this death? He said, I'm living in this old body of death. Who can deliver me? In biblical times, when the Roman authorities wanted to punish a person to the utmost, they would take this man and chain him to a dead body. And he was forced to live with that dead body strapped to his back. And he was forced to stay there until he died. And he lived with that body of death fastened to him. And that's the way they punished criminals. They would fasten them to a decaying corpse. Putrefying, spoiling, smelling, terrible. How could a person live like that? They couldn't live very long like that. So he says, who shall deliver me from this body of death? It's like the body strapped to another man. That's the picture Paul is presenting. I'm like a man with an old dead corpse strapped to him. And it's evil, it's bad, and I can't get rid of it. Oh, wretched man that I am, he says, who shall deliver me from this body of death? It was a body of death when they strapped it to a person. Two natures beat within my breast. One is foul, the other blessed. The one I love, the one I hate, the one I feed will dominate. And so there is a part that we have to play to get some victory over the old nature. You'll never get rid of it, but you can control it. Sometimes you can go to a doctor, and the doctor will say, you have a disease, and we can't cure it, but we can control it with medication. Well, that's exactly the picture here. We have the disease of that Adamic nature. That old nature is in us. And we can't be cured from it. We can't get rid of it, but we can control it. It doesn't need to dominate us. We can dominate it. If we use the medication, the proper things that God has set forth for us to use, we can control it. We can keep it under so that it does not rule in our life. And that's the secret of the book of Romans, how to have victory over that old nature, even though you can never get rid of it. It's called the old man. It's called the flesh. It's called the new nature, the old nature. Ephesians 4:22, that you put off concerning the former conversation the old man, which is corrupt according to deceitful lust. Now the old man has tendencies. I'll give you just a few of his tendencies. He is a lying old man. Don't let this old man tell you that you're so good that you don't sin anymore, because he's deceiving you. You do sin. Not only is he a lying old man, he's an ungodly old man. This old man in us doesn't like to act godly. It hurts him to act godly. It suits him to act ungodly. That is why people sometimes get drunk, kill other people, and they shoot their wives, whip their wives, they curse their wives. This is the old man expressing himself. He's a tired old man. Come Sunday morning, he's too tired to go to church. Come Wednesday night prayer meeting, he's too tired to come to prayer meeting. He's a tired old man. He's always tired when it comes to anything about serving God. Then he's an unfair old man, because you better watch him. He will cheat. He will cheat on you. Then he's an unsatisfied old man. He never gets all he wants. No matter how much compliance he gets from you, he wants more. And when he gets that, he wants more. He wants to dominate your entire life. He wants to dominate your thought processes and your feet, where they go, and your hands, what they do. He's an unsatisfied old man. And then he's a stingy old man. He wouldn't give $1 to the church if his life depended on it. He's a stingy old man. He hates tithing. And then he's a proud old man. He exalts himself. He brags about how good he is and what good things he does to other people. And oh, what a wonderful person he is. He loves to brag on himself. That's the old man. And then he's a dying old man. Yes, he's dying. But he's dying a slow death. This old man hates death. The reason he hates death is because it's a terrible monster to this old man. He knows someday he's going to die. Someday the Lord's going to take that old man out of the Christian, and that's the end of him. Death is the end of the old man. That's what he was born for. The old man is over at death. He's finished. And that part of us, called the old man, the depraved nature, will be changed in the resurrection. On the resurrection morning, God will raise our bodies from the grave, and our bodies will be no longer indwelt by the old nature. We'll get rid of it in the resurrection. It'll be gone forever. But until the morning of the resurrection, we've got to fight it and live with it and combat it. Romans 7:24 says, O wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from this body of death? The resurrection will. Christ will deliver us. The day is coming when our victory will be assured. But you can overcome the old nature. You can defeat the old nature. You can have dominion over him if you do what the Bible tells you to do. You need to pray. You need to read your Bible. You need to go to church. You need to take advantage of spiritual things that you can do, which puts the old man in a place of inertia, where he's no longer able to overcome you. I imagine you've heard people say, why did I do that? Did you ever say that? I'm sure you did. Why did I do that? I'll tell you why. The old man, you got a foothold. That's why you did it. Now, you say, well, preacher, I'm sure that's true in some people. But most people are not like that. Oh, yes, most people have that old nature. In fact, I can tell you this morning on the authority of the Bible that every living person on this earth has that old nature in him. He has it. He may deny it. He may say, no, I don't have it. But it's there. And if you'll be honest, he will admit that there are times he does evil things and he doesn't know why he did it. The old nature's there in him. Now, suppose I took 8 of the most godly Christian preachers that we've ever had. Men that are unquestioned in their Christianity. Men who love the Lord with all their heart. Men who spent their lives serving God. And I take these 8 men and I say to you, I'm going to give you 8 men, just as an example, of men that you would never think of doing anything or having any evil thought at all. I would start with the Apostle Paul. He's our first witness. He says, in me that dwelleth no good thing. He says, there's sin in me. So the Apostle Paul's our first witness. Then we can go to H.A. Gordon. H.A. Gordon was a great pastor and renowned worldwide as a preacher. And just before his death, he was asked to be left alone. He wanted to be by himself. And they overheard him confessing his sins to God in such a way that they thought maybe he was in delirium. This great spiritual man of God. on his deathbed, confessing all these sins that he had committed. Then Dr. Arnold of Rugby said, in a deep sense of moral evil, more perhaps than anything else, abides a saving knowledge of God. You see, that is proof when you have two natures that you're a child of God. Because the unsaved have only the old depraved nature, but the saved man has both natures, new and old. Augustine, the great theologian of the church, said on his deathbed he wanted the 32nd Psalm put on the wall by his bed so he could read it. And there's a confession of sin. And then Jonathan Edwards was one of the greatest preachers of America and an outstanding Christian, written books and pastored churches, president of a college and a seminary. This great man, known throughout the world as a holy man of God. This is what he said about himself after 20 years of putting up with the old nature. He said, often since I have lived in this town, I have had very affecting views of my own sinfulness and vileness, weeping sometimes for a considerable time, so that I own wickedness and the badness of my heart that I had ever had before my conversion. It has often appeared to me that if God should mark iniquity against me, I should appear to be the very worst of all mankind. Of all that have been since the beginning of the world to this time, and that I should by far have the lowest place in hell. That's one of the most godly preachers in America, confessing that if God were to mark his sins, he would be in the lowest place in hell. Then Philip Doddridge, another great preacher, a holy man of God, his last words in dying were, the best prayer I ever offered up in my life deserves damnation. That's what he said. Augustus Toplady, the man who wrote Rock of Ages, said this of himself, oh, that ever such a wretch as I should be tempted to think highly of himself. I am of myself nothing but sin and weakness, in whose flesh naturally dwells no good thing. I who deserve damnation for the best work I ever performed. He's saying no matter what the best work I ever did, I deserve damnation. That's a holy man of God speaking. And then last of all, the mightiest preacher since the Apostle Paul was Charles Haddon Spurgeon of London, England. This is what Spurgeon said about himself and about the old nature that dwelled in him. And I quote, but as for my old nature, that is a body, I can never find it difficult to recognize its existence. It is apparent as my flesh and bones. As I never doubt that I am in flesh and blood, so I never doubt but what I have sinned within me. It is a body, a thing which I can see and feel, and which to my pain is ever present with me. Understand then, he says, the old nature of the Christian is a body, and has in it a substance, or as Calvin puts it, a mass of corruption. So I give you 8 of the most holy men of God that the world has ever known. And every one of them, without exception, says, I deserve damnation, and there dwells in me a depraved nature called the old man, called the flesh, and I have it in me. And I can add to those 8, although I'm not one of the great ones, I can add to those great ones myself. This preacher, this morning, I have to say, yes, I have that old nature. But I have learned how to control it, how to dominate it, and how to live in the good nature, the new nature. Now, once in a while, he'll slip up on me, just as he does on you. But when he does, you know what to do. Go to God, confess your sin, and He cleanses you from all unrighteousness.
Amen.
But the secret of victory is not to deny that you have that old nature, wicked and depraved, but the secret is to turn to God, confessing that you do have it, and asking God to give you victory over that old nature, and He will do it if you take the right steps. And in the 8th chapter, next Sunday, we will go into how Paul found the victory over that old nature. He didn't lose it. It stayed in him, and sometimes it broke out, but he gained victory over it because he knew, as he walked with the Lord, just what to do to win the battle. So I trust this morning that although this hasn't been a very palatable message, and I may have told you something about yourself that you didn't know about yourself, or something that you might even deny, but it's true because the Bible is true. And it's in us, it's there to stay until the morning of the resurrection. And when the Lord takes us to glory, then He'll leave the old nature behind. We'll never know it again. We'll never have it again. And it'll be gone forever.
Amen.
That's the Christian. That is a born-again Christian. And that is true of every born-again Christian. Let's stand together, please, and be dismissed in prayer. And as we pray this morning, Brother Gene, would you dismiss us, please, in prayer?
Thank you, Lord, for speaking to our pastor about how we are, Lord, and how we act, and how we turn to you for your guidance, protection,